We're back.
We're
I
back.
made it.
Maria.
Maria, your story. Welcome, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you to the panelists. I'm so excited for this topic. This is the second part of our Young Hustlers of the Music Biz panel, and it's the first installment of our Coast to Couch series, which is connecting Nashville and LA and giving people, advice and, educating people in the music business. And I want to thank our sponsors, Creative Nation, Martin Albee, Miller, Bryan and Associates, Connect Nashville, Live Right Play, and Regions Bank. And my name's Noreen. I'm the co-director of education and panel events at YEP LA. And thank you guys so much for being here. Would love to just start out by going around and everyone's kind of say what they do, where they work, and it's a little synopsis. Charlene, you want to kick it off?
Yep, let's do it. So my name is Charlene Bryant. I'm founder of Riveter Management. I manage a couple artists, but one you may have heard of, Trippie Redd. And I have some up and coming artists, Kid Lee, manager, producer, Bobby Critical. I've lived out here in LA for a little over a year now. So right before COVID, I moved out here. And so I've just been locked in the apartment ever since. But yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. Welcome. Annie, you're next.
Hello, I'm Annie. I'm reporting live from sunny Los Angeles. I work as a music publisher at indie publishing company Pulse Music Group based in Silver Lake, and I've been at the company for 3 years. I'm fortunate enough to work across an amazing sort of collection of artists and producers and writers, a couple of which include S.G. Lewis, Ryan Beatty from Brockhampton, All Day, Tyler Johnson, he's done a lot of the Harry Styles project, Drew Love of the Artist Project They, and the list goes on, but we'll get into all of it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. Bennett, you're up.
Yep, I am Bennett Beckner. I am an agent in the music touring space at CAA here in Nashville. A couple clients I work on Two Door Cinema Club, Leon Bridges, Band Camino, Sam Fisher, Need to Breathe, and also book festivals. So I book Bonnaroo and Austin City Limits and Jazz Fest and a ton of different fun ones.
Hell yeah. Maria, you're next.
Hey everyone, my name's Maria Hironas. I work at a company called Q&A on the management side of our business, and you might know artists like Moses Sumney on Jaguar, Edie Irie on Republic Records, Bryn Elliott on Atlantic, and a new artist we're developing named Taisha, also on Atlantic.
Woo! All right, Josh, you're last but not least.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me. I am an A&R at APG. We're a publishing company as well as a record label based in Los Angeles. I've been at APG a little over 3 years now. I'm mostly focusing on the publishing side. I work with people like Futuristics, Grady, Sam Martin, Rolo, Ben Johnson, Johnny Goldstein, but also help out across the roster, always looking for songs, and just really happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome. Thank you guys so much. I want to kick it off by, this is the Young Hustlers panel. I want to talk about, has age ever been a factor has it ever affected you negatively or positively in any way? And, trying to move up at your company or even getting your footing in the door. Anyone want to kick it off?
I can go.
Cool. Josh, go.
I think, honestly, positively. I think, reflecting on my kind of very short career so far, I think internships were probably the best thing that could have happened for me in the music industry, because I personally didn't know anyone in the business and no connections. And being a college student, you have a lot more flexibility getting internships because you usually at a minimum need college credit to get certain internships. And I think you could jump around a lot through different semesters or the summers and kind of really explore different areas. And I think when you're obviously older, you can't really get an internship anywhere. I mean, theoretically you can, but it's not so typical. So I think being younger, you have a lot more flexibility to try things and kind of make mistakes that you probably can't as you get older and as your career develops. So I think being younger, honestly, at least for me, has helped. And I don't think anyone's ever kind of looked at me in a negative way because I was too young and didn't, factor in my opinion because I didn't have a lot of experience. I think the music business is so focused on, culture. And I think the younger you are, you probably have a better pulse on the culture. So I think in that regard, it's also been super helpful. So I think honestly, for me at least, only in a positive way.
Yeah, and you want to piggyback off that?
I mean, I think definitely internships are so key and are really like, I can seriously point to every single one of my internships and like draw the through line to where that has directed me in my current role. And I think specifically as well, like music is such an unusual, or entertainment is really just such an unusual kind of industry in which like a lot of really successful people never went to college, or some of them didn't graduate high school. And so I think that what's special about that is that just like these parameters of what other industries look like are completely broken down. And I think what's great about that is that music is just about like, if you're working, if you're grinding and people know that they can trust you and your clients believe in you and so on and so forth, like that's really the value that you can add. So I've also found it really kind of empowering to be a young person. And again, like the way that you understand and relate to and experience culture is very different than that of somebody of another generation or a couple years older. So I would say that it's also really helped me. And of course, there's moments where like you're just by far the youngest person in a room and you're like, what am I doing here? And that's fine. And that's good because there's always something to be learned from those moments. And what an amazing opportunity to be able to, you know, be in a room with people who are so many years your senior and to be able to still offer something to the conversation.
Totally. Maria, you had
Penny,
to
go
add?
for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say 100%, totally agree. Like we're in an industry where I think it is a young person's business, right? Like the first thing that comes to mind, one of my favorite books is the David Geffen biography. And he talks about how he got into music and he was originally going to get into movies, but he was like, all of the movie stars were in their 40s and 50s. And as a 23, 24-year-old, you know, he had no way to like, no basis to connect with them on a personal level. So he got into music because you know, all the people that were at the top of the game were the same age as him. And I think that stands true. And like Josh said, like, you know, every day there's a new technology, there's something new. And you know, it's a young person's culture. Like I just signed this artist 347 Aiden. He's got like 80 million strings on his last single. And when we were signing him, he literally was playing Call of Duty while we're signing him. And like, so I'm like, I got to learn how to speak this guy's language. Right. And so you have to stay young and curious. And the older I get, the younger I'm kind of trying to think. So I 100% think it's a pro.
That's a great point. Yeah, Maria, were you going to add on to that before?
Yeah, I was going to actually say on the flip side of my personal experience, I think, so I was signed to a small record deal when I was a kid, around 12 years old. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, like, I was signed to Atlantic Records and my life was changed. It was a small label, but it did change my life in the sense of like, it showed me how much I didn't like being an artist. But, you know, I think the reality is when you're entering music at that age, you are very impressionable as a young woman. And, you know, I think the reality of what I faced at the time was like, as soon as I grew boobs, you know, at 13, 14, like suddenly a lot of like the people I work with, the producers, the executives are kind of like, oh, you should wear makeup or you should wear push-up bras and things like that. And that was kind of the reality of the industry a bit for young women. Also, especially like women of color, I would probably say, I think they're, in my personal experience, I will also say, but I think oftentimes there is always something someone is looking to like ding you for. And it could be because your race, because your gender, because your age, because your background, because you didn't go to an Ivy, because you went to community college, because you're this old or this. And I think the reality is as young people, whatever that means to you, you just stand firm in who you know and what you know and your values are. And I know, I agree that I think I don't know if it's music is a young man's game as much as it is a game of being always a student. You know, I think you do best in this industry by always humbling yourself as you continue on, like, and understand that maybe you are not the best person to tackle something, but sometimes it's best to bring someone in who can help you as you assemble teams and really think about, you know, the people that are standing next to you arm in arm when you break an artist.
That's a great point. I think you also bring up an interesting thought too that we are in such a no industry, and like you just hear no so much. How do you guys deal with, hearing no so much, and how do you, have motivation to keep going and not just be like, all right, you know what, I'm just going to go be an accountant or something. Like, this is so annoying. I'm not doing this anymore. Charlene, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I'll quote our Vice President, Kamala Harris, that I eat no for breakfast, for sure. And for me, I feel like nothing in life is worth going after if it's super easy, right? Like, if you're going to get yeses and it's going to be like, why do we try to achieve the goals that we have and the dreams that we have as people if everything is just going to be super easy for us? So with that, for me, and again, just being a woman of color in the industry, I'm told no all the time. So it literally fuels my fire, because it puts a fire inside of me to be like, oh, well, I'll show you. Let me prove you wrong. So, I'm sure a lot of people in this industry, we're told no a million times and we're told yes probably 3. But those 3 times you get that yes, you so ride that wave off into the sunset, and you definitely congratulate the big wins that you have, and that's what makes it more gratifying. And that's honestly, like I said, that definitely is what keeps the fuel burning for the fire for me to do what I do.
That's so good to hear. It's like, take those no's and just like make that the reason why you keep going.
The thing that's really funny is my whole job, like most of us here, is just like a series of many no's and people rejecting ideas. But what I love personally is when all the people who told you no, like, you end up doing the thing that they told you no, and then they're like, oh, you're so great. And you're like, you see, you should have just trusted me from the get-go. And I think that those moments, and it's not like necessarily like an egotistical thing, but it's like, you really believe in an idea, and most people are going to tell you no, and then you somehow manage to like carve your way into a space, and then it becomes like the obvious decision, and people are like, oh, I completely remember that you did that, or maybe they pretend like they don't, and you just know it yourself. But I think, just having sort of the wherewithal and knowing within yourself that like that's the baseline is no. Like, things don't happen easily. It takes 3 million shots in order for one small thing to happen. And I think just understanding that is a part of the process, and that you're not the only one that feels that way, and that is how everybody spends their day, at least helps me, just kind of keep grinding and just keep trying things. So it's definitely, it weighs on you sometimes, but I think it really does make the successes and the yeses that you do get all the sweeter for that.
Totally.
I was going to add to that. I think also no is just like a part of life, like separately from the music business. Like, I think honestly it's helpful because there are going to be like bigger problems that all of us have, like separately from the music business, and being able to deal with those things and relate to them and, reflect on our experiences, like pitching songs and someone saying no is like going to help you in bigger problems in the world. And I think also just keeps you grounded on like, if you really believe in something, like keep fighting for it. And I think what Charlene said is so true. Like, nothing worthwhile ever comes easy. And I think like if you really believe in something, you have to keep like fighting for it and pushing for it. And as Annie said, like keep convincing the people, or like trying to persuade them that you are right, or the song is great, or this artist is great. And you only need to get one yes. Like I think they say with Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, he tried like 1,000 different ways or something, and they all failed. And then he eventually got it right once and changed the world. So I think you only need one yes. And it's just the people who are driven and persistent enough to keep pushing through the no's are the ones who are going to be successful. And just having that motivation, the passion to keep fighting for what you believe in is so important. It's going to help you in every facet of your life.
Yeah. And I think that also just ties into, trusting your gut. And that's such an important part of the industry too, because everything's so uncertain. And if you have something you fully believe in, it's like, just like you said, keep riding that no until you get that one yes, like what we're all saying right now. I kind of want to also talk about, our generation, I feel like is known maybe for like job hopping, or like, having even a different career path, like every couple of years. What has kind of been your all's experience of, do you value staying with a company or client for the long term and, seeing that through? Or do you feel like hopping from a company or client every so often helps you gain more experience and learn more that way?
I can jump in on this one. So I think I've had in the past 3 or 4 years, maybe like 3 job changes or so. And honestly, I think at Q&A now, I feel like I'm gonna be here till I die. So I love this team. But one thing a mentor of mine said very early in my career is like, you can love a brand, but it'll never love you back. And there is so much loyalty that we can build into artists or to labels or publishing companies and things like that. But at the end of it, you have to really figure out what your true norths are and then use that to navigate your industry rather than, titles or finances and things like that. Because all of that will come if you follow your values, in my opinion. Like for me, my true norths have always been working with a team that's working with developing artists versus established, and always trying to find an opportunity to work with disadvantaged or marginalized communities. And that has since led me to companies like Fender, YouTube, Emanite Brooklyn, and now Q&A. So just kind of figuring that out versus, the titles and the vanity of it all.
Totally.
I totally agree. I think I've seen, I'm biased because I've been at CA for 8 or 9 years now. So I've been with the company for a long time. I think that I've seen the value in kind of specialization, right? And in honing, your knowledge and your ability in one real lane in the industry. So I think whatever you do, like, you should dive in and learn as much as you can and try to be the best in it. But in my perspective, like, it has been really helpful to really become an expert in one lane, and know your role. Like, I don't need to try to manage an act, or I don't need to get involved in the publishing. Like, there are people that are way smarter and way better doing that for them. But for me, it's a very specific role. And I think you can have a strong career if, you find something that you enjoy and you're good at, and you double down and learn as much as you can about it and try to be the best you can be at it.
Bennett, I think they call that, sometimes people want to be the jack of all trades and master of none. So it's, to your point, yes, you should master one craft. But Noreen, when you asked the question, I chuckled because my grandparents are like, you've had a new job every 2 years. And I'm like, well, listen, it's not that I'm seeking that, right? Like it just, sometimes it just happens. Like, this is the music industry. It's a revolving door. Like, look at how things have changed drastically just in the last 12 months in our business.
Totally.
So at the end of the day, what you have to do, and just to echo what Maria said, like, you have to really find what your purpose is and really be true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, sometimes these companies are going to make the best decision for their business. You are a business, so you have to make the best decisions for your business as well. Sometimes we end up being too loyal. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't fit the business for that company, then, you're cut. It's whatever. So you really just have to kind of look at your trajectory, look at your path. I don't recommend to just hop because of titles and things like that, but you really just have to find your passion and see what aligns with what you want to do and try to forge that path. And it may look like a different role every 6 to 12 months, or it may look like 3 to 6 years. There shouldn't be a time frame on anything. It really should just be what you're passionate about and following that path.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, or we can move on to the next question too?
I mean, it's been covered, but part of the way that question was asked just reminds me of so many companies just telling young people that, like, they should stay at a company for so long, and like that they should feel bad for jumping around. And I think that just should not apply. And I think that's the company speaking on their own behalf, it definitely, I think it's just a personal decision and a choice. Like, if you're being taken care of, if you feel like you have autonomy, or you have support, or you have a mentor, or you have the right team, like, those are the things that matter. And I think we as individuals know in our heart of hearts when that does or does not exist. And it doesn't mean that it's worth jumping ship, like, when something changes or when you don't feel like you have it. Like, sometimes it's worth that investment. But I also think it's important for people to feel empowered to say, you know what, this isn't working for me, and it's going to be time for me to move on to something else, and to not feel sorry for that, because you have to do that for yourself. And at the end of the day, like you're the CEO of your own business, and you have to make those decisions yourself. So there's a lot there, but I encourage people to, do what really calls to them and what they feel like they need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And everyone too watching, I think, is wanting to take their career to the next level. How do you guys recommend, how do people set themselves apart from their peers, especially like kind of when everyone's first starting out and it's kind of just like you're blending in with like everyone else kind of doing the same job as you? How do you stand out and show your value?
I think
oh, go ahead, Josh, please.
No, you go.
Oh,
where you go, the Josh go.
Sounds good. I think I was just gonna say, like, I think it's do the work. I think sometimes, like, I feel like there's a misconception like, oh, I have to do this incredible, amazing project thing, and then you forget about everything else they've asked you to do. Like, I have had, unfortunately, many interns who are like, I'm working on this thing that's going to change stuff, and I'm like, but you didn't do the Excel sheet thing I need you to do. Yeah. And I'm not to say that's less or more important than what you're working on by any means, but there's time for everything, and there's no time to do something wrong sometimes. It's just like you need to have like imperative focus and a relentlessness to be able to dig your heels into something, and rather than thinking about what's next. So that's kind of my 2 cents on there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Josh, you want to add?
I was going to pretty much say something very, very similar, and I think it's really just follow through. I think so many people talk about things that they're going to do, or if you're in an interview or informational interview, even you're just connecting with someone and you're trying to prove yourself, which I feel like is the best way to kind of get your foot in the door. And someone asks you to do something in a way to prove yourself, and you don't actually deliver. And I think sometimes people, they want the job, but they don't actually know what it entails, or they don't actually have the drive to get it done. And I think just follow through and getting something done is going to be almost more impressive at times than the actual result, to a degree.
That's so true.
Something in a certain time, or if they ask for specific, organizational style in your response, and you do it in a different way, it's like, just people are giving you instructions, just follow them. Like, don't try and put your own spin on it in the beginning days of trying to get your foot in the door. And I think that's going to be the most impressive, because it's such a competitive business and so many people want to work in it, but it's the people who actually show up and get things done that are going to stand out. And then it gets to your actual talent level of like, if you have a good ear, or if you have all the other things, but just showing up and getting something done is going to be the most impressive. And I guess on top of that, which I know Noreen, we've spoken about, is do the job you want. Like, if you want to be an A&R, start finding artists that you can help. You don't have to actually be their A&R and sign them, but you could set up sessions for them or give feedback on music. If you want to be a manager, you could find artists who don't have managers and start managing them in college. You don't need to be an established company to do a job that you want. You could just kind of figure it out and do the job you want. I think sometimes people wait for like handouts or to be somewhere to then do it. And it's like, if you want to do the job, just do it and kind of, learn as you go.
Said that perfectly, Josh. And something, that's great about everybody on this call and probably everybody watching is that, like, you want to go into a company or be a part of a community and do like the very best thing that they do. Like, you want to work with that marquee artist and you want to deliver those records. But it takes time to do that. And I think so much of, a lot of it has to do with social media as well. It's like, you're looking at these executives, you're looking at these artists, at these clients, and like figuring out how to get there. And I think people spend a lot of time like trying to reach up and up and up, when like, just look to your right and your left. Like, this is who you're going to come up with. And like, that's how you really make a difference. And I know that when I was starting at Pulse specifically, I was lucky to come in and sort of get to work on some of our more premier clients, but the differences that I made were with the clients that no one was really looking at. And I was like, let me just be your person and let me do the very best that I can and become a real asset in your life and in your manager's life and in your team's life, because they're going to talk to other people and those results will eventually, come to life. And I think, having the understanding that like, you will get there, but it takes building blocks, and really that's how you get started. And just really encouraging people to not, it's always good to focus on like how you can grow, but a lot of times you don't have to reach up for that. Like, you have it within you or around you already. And I think just really empowering the people around you and building your own community is super essential.
That's so true. Yeah. And I think what you said too, just in general, building community is so important. And especially, I mean, during the pandemic, like everyone's desperate for community. So I also want to talk about mentorship. I know we've kind of all brushed on it a little bit. I think everyone obviously knows how important it is to have a great mentor. I want to hear how that's been impactful on your career, and also how you're mentoring maybe the next one in line too, and like the next generation as well. Charlene, you want to kick it off?
Yep. So mentors are key. Mentors are the people that you can vent to. A lot of times I call my mentors and I'm like, hey, let me give you a scenario. And I tell them what happened. And I'm like, am I crazy? Or am I tripping? Am I wrong? And sometimes they're like, yeah, you need to bring it down a bit. Sometimes they're that extra gut check, right? To prevent you from making those mistakes. And I just know when I was coming up as an intern, I remember not just being so desperate to find a mentor, but not knowing how to do it. So for me personally, and my assistant's going to kill me, I like anybody that reaches out to me, I will give them time, because I just think I'm a big believer in each one, reach one, teach one. Like I turn around and I try to pull the next class up behind me and try to guide, because I mean, this industry is ever evolving, ever changing. And there is someone right now coming up with the next big app or doing the next big thing. And if I could be on the bleeding edge of that instead of the cutting, then like, let's go. So mentors are key. And it's very important that you have someone as a mentor that you really, really trust and that you're vulnerable with, because you want someone to give you honest feedback. Mm-hmm. You want someone to help course correct if need be. So that relationship is a very, very key relationship. So I'm definitely a big proponent in mentorship. I have several mentors and I mentor quite a few people. So yeah, it's definitely difficult.
Some little nuggets in there.
I mean, it's 100%. Like it's free education, you know? And I think the thing that I've had mentors help me with so much is just they can see your blind spots. Like they've been through certain things before and they can see where maybe you are not thinking about something. I totally relate to Charlene. Maybe I'm overthinking something and I'm like something, you know, I need to like tone it down or a little bit, but you know, they can just help you see those things that you aren't able to see, right? And guide you through those places. And I think at the end of the day, like it is most important that it's somebody that you trust. And I think always, you know, weigh their advice against what your gut says, you know, always trust your gut at the end of the day. So I think it's important to take that advice, but you know, at the end of the day, you're kind of looking out for you. But I mean, it's the best free education out there, I think.
I think having a mentor is so important. And I've been so lucky to have one at APG. Our head of A&R, Miles Beard, has been an amazing mentor for me. And I just don't know where I'd be without him. So I think like having a mentor is huge, and someone who, as you guys all said, like that you can trust and kind of pick their brain when you're going through things is so valuable, especially in an industry like ours where everything is changing so frequently, and knowing kind of how other people dealt with those same roadblocks and how they approach those things is huge, and just their opinion. And I think Bennett hit the nail on the head also, like you have to trust your gut, but just getting another opinion, especially if it's a different opinion, I think that's the most beneficial in having a mentor. Is you don't want someone who's going to tell you what you already know or what you want to hear. That's like so unbeneficial. So I think it's really, really helpful, especially in our business. And for me, I take a lot of pride and fulfillment when I hire interns and want to share guidance and advice to them. And for me, it's something I'm really selective with, because I spend a lot of my time on it, and I want to make sure that, you know, I think internship arguably is like more valuable for, you know, us, the people who are hiring interns, than it is for the interns. And I know for me, at least, I didn't know like anyone in the business, and I cold emailed so many people when I was starting out, and anyone who took the time to talk to me, like I, you know, was so appreciative. So same way with you, Charlene, like anyone who emails me, like random LinkedIn messages, I'll answer everyone and always try and find time to just get on the phone with them and offer any support I can, because you just don't know, you know, one, who those people might be in the future. And you always want to just help anyone who's, you know, interested. And, you know, I think it's always just important to reach out and try and help as many people as you can. So I think mentorship and mentoring other people is huge. Yeah,
I think
Noreen, if you want to message me, I'll
Oh
help
yeah,
out.
yeah, that's actually so helpful. I'll just give everyone your cell phone number too in the
Yeah,
chat.
perfect.
That's cool. Cool. Okay,
I
Bennett.
would
Yeah.
just add one thing onto that too. I think that was a great point. You just jogged something in my mind. I think another thing that you can do too is kind of take, if you have mentors and have had great mentors, take the things where you may have wished that they had done with you and you know, put those into practice with whoever you're mentoring. You know, find those things where you wish someone had kind of done that thing and just put it into whoever you're bringing up next. And I feel like that's the way we just keep building and building, you know, the younger people up.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's like do the same, like the good things, but like don't do any of the bad stuff. Keep doubling up the good stuff.
Industry where, you know, people are treated a certain way and they're like, well, that's how it happened for me. And I'm just the kind of person who's like, well, why do we have to keep precipitating that as a standard for people? And I think what's so cool is that, like, between all of us on this call and all the people that are, you know, at our respective companies, it's like we do really have the power to like set a different kind of tone for the people that we're mentoring or the people that we're bringing up and helping kind of like get their first roles or opportunities. And so I think there's a lot of like power and responsibility in that. And I think it's just such an essential part of, it's been such an essential part of my own career. And I think also something I want to mention is like the time that people are taking out of their day, like Josh responding to LinkedIn when he has thousands of emails and he's responsible for pitching 200 songs and all of that, if not more than 200, not to undermine you there, but it's like for people, I think it's really important for people to like say thank you and let people know and like check in and say, hey, you know, even if it's 6 months later, just like reach out to that person and say it was so meaningful for you to do this for me. And this is, you know, an artist that I just found. And I think using those as like relationship builders and really, you know, growing from there and trying to bring something to the table, even if you feel like, what could I possibly offer to this person? I'm sure that there's always something that they could use help with. And so I encourage kind of everybody watching as well to like think about that and also make people feel like seen and appreciated and felt when they are taking the time out of your day. Because, you know, I too am always speaking with people, with younger people that reach out to me. And it's not always that somebody is, you know, super thankful or that they're really addressing sort of, you know, how they might be able to help in some capacity. And that's not always required, but it's definitely, you know, it feels good to hear that and to feel that from people. So that's just one thing as well.
That's a great point.
Can I piggyback on what one of the things Annie said? That was a great point. When you have a mentor, and this is coming from personal experience, I want to out this person, but I had one mentee and like everything was perfect. Like she would call me and I would be like, what's going on? Like, I want to hear the dirt. Like, come on, what do you need help with? Let's talk it through. Everything was perfect. Her life is better than mine. I'm like, yo, well then what are you calling me for? Perhaps I should talk to you about some of the issues that I'm going through. So like, that's why I said, like, be vulnerable, right? Like we want to help you. Like I'm taking the time out of my day to help you so you didn't have to go through some of the shit that I went through. But you have to be vulnerable enough to open up about that and really receive that kind of help. So I just wanted to add a little 2 cents of like, we're here to help. So just be willing to open up and receive that.
I was just going to say, lastly, not to carry this on too long, but just because I know I would want to hear this if I was listening in, like my younger self. I think all of us like are proving this already, that all of us want to help people who are, you know, were in our positions like 5-10 years ago. And just don't be discouraged when people don't like respond. Like I remember getting so annoyed when I'd email people and they wouldn't get back to me. And now that I'm in like a similar position, like I definitely try to get back to everyone, definitely not right away, but I always like will respond to the email at some point. And so I think like persistence is key. And also like, you just have to understand that people will get back to you. And the people who don't, like, don't be annoyed. Those people aren't going to probably be the most helpful anyway. Like everyone wants to help out and you're going to find those people who will help out. So don't feel like bad or feel like you're annoying anyone. Like that was the best advice I got when I spoke to someone my senior year of college, a pretty successful manager. And he told me, he's like, don't ever feel bad for like following up so many times on email and, you know, chasing people because they're just missing it because they're busy. But the people who want to help will get back to you.
Absolutely. And there's obviously a balance to that. Like don't follow up like every day, but like, yes,
of
for
course,
sure.
Of course. But like, I feel like people will like not hear back and be like, okay, like I'm not going to get the job or they don't want to help me.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I think people want to see like how persistent you really are. Like, is this worth someone's time? Like, are you really
how much do
hungry?
you care?
Exactly. And I think that's also important to showcase that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also, want to talk about how is everyone staying inspired and motivated during the pandemic? Because like we said, this is not something we're all used to. We're coming up on a year. And how are you staying inspired? How are you inspiring your clients and motivating them as well? Would love to kind of pick your brains on that. Let me start with Bennett.
I was going to say my girlfriend likes to shop. Yeah, that's still working. But I mean, look, I'll be honest. You said, how do you inspire your clients? I mean, I work in touring. It's really hard. I have
dark right now.
Yeah. I have clients who have been, selling 2,000 to 3,000 cap rooms. And, you start to have those scary conversations with a business manager, like, oh, this person might have to take a job, like a real job, a second job. And, I think it's just, for my clients and trying to inspire them, I think it's just me giving my all and trying everything that I can do to better them, right? Like that motivates them, that motivates me. But it's been a hard year, right? Like, I think you've got to get like spiritual. You got to find things that, help boost you and help keep you going. But definitely girlfriend shopping addiction is top of the list for working hard.
I love that so much.
And something else that just in terms of, my relationship with my clients and really just people is that ironically, I've met so many people that are like my favorite, colleagues or collaborators that I get to work with in this time, which feels a bit backwards because everything is remote right now. But something that I've really used is it's just like the human aspect. And it's like, when you call somebody and you check in on them, instead of just like jamming them with business, it's like, how are you? Like, genuinely, how's it going? How are you feeling? Are you inspired to write right now? Do you want to just like escape to the wilderness? Because if that's what's calling you, then go do that. And I think this has been such like a great equalizer for people in a way where like everybody's going through, the same situation essentially. And so I think, just remembering that like we are humans and like people before we're publishers or agents or, A&Rs is really essential. And that speaks volumes to the people that you work with. So that's been something that's really helpful for me. And I think this also sounds pretty basic, but, in terms of how I myself stay inspired, I think it gets really hard. Like, a lot of the times we're encouraging our clients to like take that time off. Meanwhile, I don't tend to give myself that same leniency when I'm going through a hard time. And surely I'm not writing songs for a living, but it does take creativity to do what I do. And I think I'm trying to be a little bit easier on myself and say, okay, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Let me like do some yoga or let me meditate or let me go for a walk or literally feel the sunshine on my face. And like, these are things that just make me feel better. And I can come back and do the work so much better than, I was before. And so I think all of us just need to be very real with ourselves in terms of where we stand and how we feel and not be so critical, because this entire world, like I could spend 14 hours a day just like sitting on my computer and doing a lot. And some days that's what I do. And some days I find that really fun, but sometimes it's just not, what I need. And I think just knowing that that's a part of life right now and always really. And I think carrying that understanding with you and within like the people that you speak to really just kind of separates you from others.
Yeah, just to piggyback off Annie said, I think something so important that Troy, my boss, has really instilled in us is like the best way you can take care of your clients is taking care of yourself right now. And because like we need to be healthy. We need our eyes to be sharp in order to be the rocks in the river of this kind of crazy time right now. So like for me, I've just taken a lot of steps to like really dive into my mental health and with therapy, with medication. And beyond that, just being very clear with my team when I need a little space or just need time to like really do stuff. And then on the creative side, I feel like it's really creating community. So since the quarantine started, I have this marketers group that meets every 9 a.m. on Fridays since March of last year. And these are just like managers or the marketers, social media people that just like love working in music, that had just been fueled me every week. It's the shot of life that I kind of need sometimes in order to keep going. Yeah. So I think just finding community and finding whatever, helps you. Like we just, a few friends and I just started a Bible study on Wednesdays. So like just trying to like figure out how we create a unique community during this like unique time.
That's amazing. I'm glad you're doing that and like taking those intentional steps and like actually trying to take care of yourself. That's super important. Charlene or Josh, do you have anything else you want to add to?
I think for me, it's going to sound like really, really corny, but I think it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think we're all working in music because we love good music. And I can definitely think for Annie, you could probably relate to this. And you, Noreen, like just amazing music that we hear all the time is going to inspire me because we hear so much music all the time. And I think like when I hear an amazing song, like it just changes my whole day and like how you position yourself and things you want to do and who you want to get in contact with, like your whole mood changes. And I think I'm a big believer in that, like inspiration kind of strikes wherever. Like I'm not someone who like needs to go to a specific place to get inspiration. I think you just have to keep doing what you're doing and it'll kind of come. So for me, I kind of just try to motivate my roster by just telling them honestly, like obviously to find a healthy balance of working and having like their personal lives. But once you write that great song, like your whole perspective is going to change. You're going to be more inspired. There's going to be momentum. And I just think like great music is what keeps me inspired. And I know that sounds super corny, but it's really, really true. Like I hear a great song and like I could be having a bad day or feel like you're getting a lot of no's as we spoke about earlier. And then you get an amazing song and you just kind of remember why the tough days are worth it because you work with amazingly talented people who are doing things that you wish you could do. And you just get to hear their amazing music. So I think that's really what inspires me, is just working with really, really talented people and trying to keep them motivated to keep grinding till they get that lightning in a bottle, moment and song.
I love that. That's really cool. I totally agree with what you said for sure. Like once you hear that one song, and I think for all of us, like that one opportunity, it like reinvigorates us and we're like, okay, this is why we're doing what we're doing.
It kind of reminded me too of, I rep this client, Sam Fisher, who before quarantine didn't, had a few things going on, but he had a song, The City, really kind of take off during quarantine. And I think it really got him down because, he just started to have this moment, but couldn't actualize it. And I think in talking to him, we would just have these conversations. I'd just be like, Sam, but imagine when you've got this song that has affected so many people and you have more to come. And for the very first time, you're going to step on a stage and you're going to be able to like feel that connection of you singing that song and what that song meant to these fans during quarantine. Yeah. And I promise that when you're at that moment and you're singing that song, that it will all be worth it. And, you'll be so happy that we just got through this time.
Oh, I just got goosebumps hearing you say that. Also, just like the fact of like being at a live show again made me so excited.
I'm ready.
I also want to make sure you're putting your questions in the comments. We'll probably get to some questions in about like a minute or so. So, but yeah, Charlene, did you have anything else to add to that, or?
I heard the tail end. Sorry, Mr. Red FaceTimed me, even though
You're so good.
I'm on a panel.
No,
Mr. Red, I'm on a panel.
How do you stay inspired, and how do you inspire your clients?
Oh, well, I think for me, routine has been so key. I'm very much so like fly by the seat of my pants. I'm not super regimented, but especially during this time, just finding a routine and getting in a groove and doing little things. Something as small as like, I go buy flowers every other week and keep fresh flowers in my home. Like, can I just get grocery store flowers? I'm not that bougie with the flower game yet, but just little things that like I look forward to. Listening to music, obviously, in terms of keeping my client inspired, that's probably been the hardest thing because he's never sat still this long and he's only 21. So, he was just like, I'm in jail. And I was like, we are all in jail with you. It's not by yourself. We're all in jail.
Only me.
Yeah. It was like he was coming off like this was only happening to him. And I was like, no, like this is what's going on in the world. But just kind of playing to his strengths, and you know, he's a gamer, and I was like, okay, let's dive into video games. Let's like get serious about gaming. He started designing clothes because he's very into fashion. So just kind of paying attention to the things that he liked to do as hobbies, but turning those into like, yo, this is a money move for us. Like, what do you want to do? Let's expound on this, because his favorite thing to do is shows and tours, because that's when he can touch the fans. So, you know, was just trying to make that pivot and making sure that he was still inspired creatively. And then of course, collaborations, just trying to get those opportunities, because like I said, we all are sitting around. So just trying to find other artists that he could work with and step outside those boundaries and things like that. So.
Well, good thing you're on this panel, because now you're gonna get all these session emails after this. So
right. Thank you, everyone. Yes, I welcome them all.
I also want to do one last question right before the audience questions. I want to kind of go around really quickly, and if anyone has any, you know, industry recs, like books or podcasts that people, you know, would really benefit from, would love to hear any thoughts on that too, really quickly.
It's like probably stated very often, and it's maybe perhaps for more somebody who's interested in publishing or A&R, but And the Writer Is, Ross Golan's podcast, is just like such a favorite of mine. And it's for those of you know that are watching that aren't aware of it, Ross Golan is an incredible songwriter and executive, and he basically just sits down with various hit makers and talks to them about the experience of writing a certain song or how they got started. And it's a very sort of broad, usually hour-long conversation. And what I specifically love about it and how that kind of pertains to this is that I think so many of us, like, you see something on Instagram or you see a headline and you're like, oh my gosh, like how could I possibly get there? And these interviews are so enlightening because you just realize like how many weird, mistaken, like things happened in a row to lead somebody to like what defined their career and what put them on the map. And you kind of just remember like nobody has any idea what they're doing. We're all just, trying to make as much as we can happen with as little resources as everybody has. And that always kind of brings me a lot of relief because I am reminded that like you're on the right path and that nobody's path looks the same. And frankly, it's just really inspiring to hear about how all of these songs that like have defined parts of my life or experiences in my life, were made to be, but also just kind of how accidentally or strangely or differently they happened, because that's really what I think those moments click and you can't even predict what will come from them. And that really just inspires me to keep doing what I do every day and to continue staying inspired.
I love that. And someone asked, what was the podcast again? It's called And the Writer Is. Josh, any thoughts?
Love that podcast. So highly recommend everyone listening to that. I don't know if they still do this. I think it was called Blueprint. I think it was this like complex, like interview series. I used to watch them all the time and they were amazing. They would interview someone from Complex, I believe it was, would interview just really successful, more industry figures. Like they had Scooter Braun, and just other like successful managers and executives and, heads of labels, I think like Leora Cohen. And they kind of talk about their career and how they kind of got into the business. And I just thought that was super, speaking of inspiration, like that was so inspiring. And you also just learn so much. And I think that was a really, really good one. Again, I don't know if they still do that, but hopefully they still have the previous ones uploaded. And then I think the classic, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business is like the holy, the Bible of the music business.
Yeah. That's the Bible study that we're studying, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think if you don't know about the different departments or like sectors of the music business, it's such an easy like read. It's definitely boring at times, to be fair, but like if you don't know just like what an A&R is or what a music attorney does or what publishing is, like it's just really easy to understand and actually learn, that could be really cool. Let me learn about, I could see myself doing marketing, or I could see myself working on a management company. And I think if you don't know about the business but want to learn about it, I highly recommend reading that book just to kind of open the door a little bit.
That's a good baseline for sure. Charlene, any recs?
Yes, so I feel like Paul Allen is going to start having to pay me royalties because I plugged this. this management book all the time. It's the Artist Management Book by Paul Allen. I don't know what edition he's on now. He's probably on edition 12 because I literally plug it every time I talk about it. And my favorite podcast is NPR's How I Built This with Guy Raz. It's so inspirational. Like to hear how like Zumba was started and WeWork and like just companies that you think, oh yeah, like it was someone that was like super in the industry. No, these are like regular schmegular people that saw a need and like came up with a plan or had a need based on what they were going through in their life and was like, yo, I just gotta, like, those are like the ultimate hustlers on How I Built This. So that is my favorite.
So true. I love that one. Bennett, any
I got a quick one. This question got me so excited because I just found it. So Jason Hirschhorn, who's the CEO of Redef, he does a daily email newsletter. It's like 10 different music business or just music related articles that has stood out, little like sound bites along the way. I'm a reader, so I found this thing and it's like takes like 30 minutes to read. You feel like you've gotten your like current events on the music industry for the day. I wish I could throw it in the chat, but maybe we could send it around. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good.
Yeah, I think someone else can throw it in the chat. That's a great idea. Maria, any recs for you? And we'll take questions right after this.
Oh man, I just literally took notes on all y'all, so thank you. I mean, I read a lot. There's a book called, I was just like looking at my library back here, Good to Great by Jim Collins that I really love.
Oh yeah.
It's about what makes a company good versus great. Atomic Habits is another one that I really love by James Clear. But I also think overall, just definitely, you know, inhale as much of the music stuff as you can, but culture wider is like going to be the thing that sets you apart, in my opinion. If you know what movies are coming out, if you know who's the music soup behind them, if you know like the new YouTube viral videos, or if you know what's popping off on TikTok that isn't music, there's so much currency to that is incredibly invaluable.
That's a great point. Yeah. Okay, yeah, these are amazing. I'm actually literally want these two. Okay, so first question. How are you finding new talent right now? Is it mainly through TikTok and Instagram, or do you guys, you know, have a pulse on such a massive amount of content being made all of the time? Like, how are signing people right now?
My most recent client won a contest on Triller.
Oh, nice.
TikTok is like crazy. Like it's some crazy talented people on TikTok. Like I mean, I'm just blown away. And people are like blowing up on TikTok. It's becoming like the new like A&R thing of the future. It's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. But you have to do due diligence, right? Because everyone can manipulate things even from your own little MacBook. But yeah, I definitely will. I'm on TikTok, Triller. I watch a lot of things, but then I follow it up on social media. It's a little bit difficult now because, you know, back in the day, what would we do? Go to a show and see how someone would perform live, because that makes a huge difference. So yeah, right now, I'm social media and TikTok.
Yeah. And you're not going to add, or with the next question?
Yeah, I was going to jump into it real quick. On the TikTok front, I do feel like I've tried to look at a couple of these and try to figure out, okay, what is going to translate to actual ticket sales? And so the one thing I try to track is like, okay, when are these people following an artist and their brand and not just a song? And so that's why I love 3478 because I'm like, these kids just love this guy and look to him. But I feel like that's the thing. Like at the end of the day, a song can pop off quicker than ever right now with TikTok, but you've got to find artists that have like a brand that fans want to get behind.
Absolutely. That's a good distinction for sure.
Kind of from like the A&R standpoint as well. Like I think, of course, you should be aware of what's happening on TikTok and what's happening on Instagram. I will say that doesn't really feel like my forte, you know? And so sometimes I find it a little bit overwhelming, or like, how do I even begin like this black hole of TikTok and how I would find something? And so I think, you know, I'm lucky that my, you know, group of collaborators and clients that I work with are working with dozens of people every week. And so I'm kind of put on to people through music that is sent to me, or a manager friend that I know that's sending me something, and people whose taste that I trust connecting with me about something. And so I think you obviously have to be in a certain kind of position to be able to have that exposure. But kind of to sort of piggyback on what Bennett said, like, I think this is a time in which people really need to be discerning in terms of what makes just like a hot moment in a song versus what makes a lifelong career and an artist and a perspective that millions of people or hundreds of thousands or whatever that looks like will really want to follow. And so I think it's important to sort of watch everything, but also to know kind of instinctually what really like feeds you and inspires you, because you can hear something and be like, wow, yeah, that's really catchy, but am I going to listen to that every day on repeat because that's all that I can think about? Probably not, but it's good for somebody else. And so I think also just being real with yourself and saying like, this might be the biggest thing on TikTok, but I think it's not something I would ever want to connect myself to. Like, that's also okay. Or maybe it's just something that I tell myself to make myself feel better. But I have to believe that, you know, there's so many opportunities out there and so many different kinds of talent that it should always really feel like it's something that you care about. And it's not just because it's blowing up or they have millions of followers that it's something that you should be, you know, paying attention to in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, amazing. Love these answers. Next question. Tips on ways to evolve a work relationship external to a personal one during these weird times where you can't say, let's grab drinks. That's a good question. Anyone doing some hikes or walks or?
Time, glass of wine personally. So I'm still having the drinks, all of them, you know, as much as I can. But also I think, yeah, you can, if it's safe and like, if you feel comfortable, it's great to just be able to go on like a hike with somebody or go on a walk or meet up in a park and be distanced and like chat about things. So, you know, there are other ways to connect with people. And something that I'm really trying to remind myself as well is that there's really like, there's just no substitute for that in-person connection and feeling and experience. So I'm trying to sort of build those moments in for myself, because like I said, like we could spend 12 hours a day just sitting behind our computers, but it's like that one meeting that you go to and you hear that song really loud in a studio and you play it 4 times over, or you have a lunch and you have this great conversation about a book that you both read, like whatever it is, those end up like fueling me in my own life and, you know, in my days. And so I think just trying to find those moments. Simultaneously, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, there shouldn't be any pressure to sort of meet up with people and have that. And I have a lot of clients who sort of feel like they're missing out on an opportunity because they're not doing sessions in person. And I'm just trying to remind them that like, you're not going to feel creatively inspired in a room if you're stressed about getting COVID while you're sitting next to somebody. Yeah. So you just have to do what's, you know, feels comfortable for you, really.
To add on to this too, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I've been training for this moment my whole life. I was on MySpace Kid. I was on AIM. Like I like got a cell phone when I was 13 and I used that text message limit till like 2 days into it. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been trading for this moment our whole life, people. Like we like making friends on the internet, like just be a little fearless. It is truly 10 seconds of just don't overthink it and just being kind. And you will find that people, like I firmly believe in the law of attraction. Like if you give off such, you know, lovely kindness vibes and approach everything with humility, you will find individuals who will reflect that and even more. And I think you can, you know, really dive into that during this time as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I think we'll have time for one more question. Okay, do y'all have any standout moments where you thought, wow, how did I get here? Oh, this is like such a pure question. I love this. So wholesome. Charlene, you want to go?
Man, like every day. I hate to say it. I don't want to sound cheesy, but like I just did a project with Travis Barker. Do you know, as a 90s kid that grew up on pop punk and grunge, I was like, just in the studio like, better. Yes. And I'm like, only thing that would make this next level is if Kourtney Kardashian walked in, and then I'd be like, I'm done. I don't need to do
I'm with you.
anything else, because that's, yeah, like, I'm like, if his boo walks in, like, this is it. But like every day, one of the things that I did take away from COVID, just to be honest and transparent, I remember a year ago complaining a lot, right? Like I traveled several times a week. I was like, I'm tired of getting on planes. I'm tired of, I'm so exhausted. I'm staying in hotels. And now I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could get on a plane and go somewhere right now.
Yeah.
So now I literally take every moment and cherish it. I really like reflect on the day and just like what happened really cool today? Today I talked to Travis Barker. Okay, that's good enough. But like legit every day, or even the days where I'm like, where I saw somebody put in the chat about Trader Joe's, they have the best flowers. They last the longest. They last for almost 3 weeks. Just going to Trader Joe's and getting my flowers, like taking that moment and being like, yo, that was really cool. Because when I wake up, I see the flowers and it makes me feel good. Yeah. So it really, aside from just trying to take those personal moments and obviously those huge moments in my career, just really sitting back and patting myself on the back, like, Charlene, you're doing exactly what you want to do and you're happy. Yeah. Like just taking that time out, like not to be all cheese, but like seriously, in this climate that we're in, there's so much happening in the world. You have to take those little moments and just cherish them, like connecting with friends, connecting with family, like congratulating yourself for that awesome moment. Even if like Annie, it's you just saying, you know what, I sat through that TikTok and it wasn't that bad. Pat yourself on the back. You know what I mean? It's the little things. It's the little things.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. I think that's the perfect place to end this panel. You guys were so incredible. Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughtful answers and advice. Thank you again to our sponsors. Thank you to everyone who is watching. Keep an eye out for our upcoming panels. We have another one coming soon about building a brand, which we're really excited about. And follow Yep on Instagram and follow and I don't know, Facebook. How do you do it? Like Facebook. Thank you guys so much again, and see you soon.